Welcome to the Screen the Screener College Basketball Podcast with your hosts, Mike Randall and Gus Kearns.
Welcome in, listeners, to the Screen the Screener College Basketball Podcast, where we're always talking everything college hoops. You could have been anywhere else in the dial, but you chose to be here with us, Mike and Gus, and we appreciate that. Mike, there's a few things that we had to wait on recording for. I stayed to watch Jelly Walker hit a three with a few seconds left on the road against Western Kentucky for the win. UAB still playing well, one of the hottest mid-majors and one of the trendiest names. We were on that early. Don't worry, with our season team preview way back in the preseason. So what did you have to stay up for to be a delayed recording?
'Cause I'm free falling, 'cause I'm free falling. Kevin Willard's free falling. No, Gus, I stayed up. We'll get into Kev Willard in a minute, of course.
Right.
But how fickle am I? About 2 weeks after I'm saying, no, I'm with Kevin Willard. I mean, how fast did I jump off that bandwagon 4 out of 5? Thank you, Kevin. I think St. John just scored again.
You didn't put your seatbelt when you got on that on the bus there. You didn't.
Gus, they were favored by 2 over Marquette. What planet is that? Look at me back in Shaka. I mean, this is like a bizarro.
It is a little bit bizarro world, yeah.
I was betting the live line on Iowa, who got taken to the woodshed by Purdue. Now, I did correctly take Purdue minus 2.5, even though the entire public was on Purdue, which we'll get into, Gus, because sometimes the public's right. That's one of our themes. Public was hammering Purdue in this game, and they were right. I just got greedy. Took Iowa plus 12, trying to middle the game and to win because I didn't have a good night trying to make up some money. And luckily, because Chris Murray made a shot there at the end, I was able to get it at 10. But that was what I was doing. But Tom Petty, Kevin Willard, we're off and running, bud.
I was very impressed with the Petty reference right there. Very nicely played, young man. Do you want to open with Seton Hall and your transfer ticket on the Seton Hall Pirate bus that you were holding the whole entire time? What do we got here?
Yeah, my argument is this. Listen, they're very talented, and I think Willard's okay. I don't think he should be fired, Gus. It's just
no.
I don't think. To me, they were 9-1, and I'm like a little bit of the emperor's clothes here with Seton Hall. And bang, they lose away at Providence, no shame there. Bang, they lose at home to Villanova, no shame there. They win at Butler, okay, maybe that cooled everybody a little bit. Win it in OT at home against Connecticut, everybody's like, we're good. Kept Will 11-3, 2-2 in conference, and then bang away DePaul, bang away Marquette. St. John's win, and then bang by 20 at home to St. John's, and then Marquette by 10. What really bothered me, Gus, is they had the game in Seton Hall in a separate on-campus venue.
It's a great venue, by the way.
Yes, I have actually coached at the summer camp there. I have coached in that exact gym. And then like Willard saying he really doesn't like playing there, it really suits St. John's. Kevin, bad job by you, big guy. These are your fans. This is home.
You can't call your on-campus, cozy on-campus facility not a great place for us to play.
Gus, we're going to play in my
Can't do it.
We're going to play in my basement, but it's really not. It's just really suited to the neighbors. I mean, come on, man. It's just a bad look. You lost, and that's it. Free falling, 3-6 in conference, 12-7. Kevin Willard, we will not see you in the NCAA tournament, barring a miracle. And you can be all mad about your opponent shooting 78% from the free throw line, 353rd in the nation. Maybe you can hang your hat on that, but not doing well for the Pirates.
I think it's a predictable outcome. I almost feel like this has been the script with Seton Hall for almost as long as we've been doing this podcast, is a slightly underrated beginning of the season, get off to a decent start, maybe find themselves ranked, or people are talking about them dethroning a Butler, or that 1 year with Xavier. I'm sorry, Villanova,
Excellent.
or that 1 year with Xavier under Chris Mack, who maybe we'll get into a little bit later.
Chris Mack? Maybe we will.
and then they hit the skids. Everybody's off the bus again. And then they put together a couple of decent wins at the end and maybe even win a Big East tournament like they did that one season. And then they might win a game in the tournament, and then we're good. Well, so I would say they'll probably make the tournament, play a really competitive first-round game, and then we're all set.
Well, to be fair, Gus, their schedule does set up to have a run at the end of the year.
Of course it does.
Home DePaul.
Right.
Home Butler.
Great.
Away Xavier. We discussed them last time, and we'll talk about them a little bit soon. And Georgetown home, and then Creighton away. I mean, it's possible. It's possible.
Yeah.
What do you think? They're 12-7, 3-6. So get me to 500 in the Big East and get me to 21 wins. How about that? 20 wins?
Yep. And then you're looking at the 8-9 game.
Yeah.
Maybe you're a 10 seed.
2011.
That makes sense.
2011.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to make it, but they could. It's a path. But they got to lock down on defense, which they haven't been doing lately. I mean,
which is crazy. I don't understand how that's not a thing for them with their length at pretty much every position except with Aiken at the point guard position and the rim protection that they offer with multiple positions. I don't understand why they're not one of the more elite defensive teams inside the Big East.
No, absolutely. Tony Stubblefield, great job with DePaul. But Gus, you want to be a tournament team, you can't give up 96 to DePaul. I'm sorry. That's just the little rule of thumb. They almost got 100 on you. I mean, you're going to be a defensive team. DePaul's got 100. I mean, what's going to – come on.
That is the definition of head scratch.
96. 96. Yeah. Jesus. Oh, baby. But anyway, Gus, let's move on here. I do want to make a mention here. My cousin Brian, who you know very well, his son Matthew. Okay. Matthew has a sports marketing teacher who evidently loves our podcast. So I don't know the gentleman's name, but kudos to you, sir. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Professor. Educators are awesome.
Matt sent me a text, said he walked in prior to the period and our podcast was on. He was listening to it in the school. God bless you, sir. And he's saying, I love these guys. Really want to listen to the podcast. Just wish they would talk about Oregon. So no problem, sir. Thank you for listening to the podcast. I'll be happy to talk about Oregon, who absolutely gagged it in a head scratcher at home to Colorado. Oregon was actually flying high, probably, Gus, one of the bigger head scratchers based on their preseason rankings early in the year. Lost semi-home to BYU, lost on a neutral to St. Mary's, lost to Houston, opened up Pac-12 play, losing at home to Arizona State. That loss looks bad, and it's going to get worse.
Makes no sense.
Away at Stanford by 3, okay. Really have struggled, but they got things right, as Dana Altman will, because he's one of the best coaches in the country. Got to a Final Four, beat Kansas in Kansas City, who had Frank Mason when he didn't have Chris Boucher. That's all there is to it.
Correct.
Beat Pepperdine, beat Utah, beat Oregon State away, beat UCLA away in overtime. Fantastic win. USC away, back-to-back, and a belly-to-belly beats UCLA and USC. Home Washington smacked them around and then blew a 20-5 lead to Colorado, otherwise known to me, Gus, as the Big Pillow.
Well, when we talked to Shane Hoffman, again, during our team preview series about Oregon, we had high hopes for this team. And Shane even mentioned that he felt like the recipe for this particular roster was one of the more talented ones, but one that they would have to figure out with the coaching staff. And that I kind of wrote them off for a couple of games this season earlier. And now that they're back and they kind of have some things figured out, I'm kind of back in on the Will Richardson train. Like we talked about him as being maybe, I was thinking of him as maybe like a dark horse All-America type player, or maybe a player that could be first team All Pac-12 with some of the UCLA players and maybe one or two other players from Arizona. But I think that Dana Altman definitely figures things out, and no different here. Devon Harmon, transfer from Oklahoma, is doing a great job as the lead guard there, not necessarily distributing, but just as one of the shot makers and one of the defenders on the perimeter. Our old friend Jacob Young from Rutgers seems to be finding his place and his role. And I think the biggest thing is their health inside with N'Faly Dante. He's finally fully healthy and able to play extended minutes. I think that's also been part of their recipe of success as well. And they always have talent on the wing, whether it be through the transfer portal. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, they haven't really even accessed their really talented big man freshman that's kind of waiting in the wings. So Oregon might be even a bigger surprise once he gets into the fold full tilt. But yeah, I kind of forgot about Oregon and was just like, okay, we missed on that one, but maybe we didn't.
Yeah, I think they'll get it right. This was a bad loss, only because they have Oregon State at home, who I think they take care of business of. Rivalry game, but I think they take care of business. And then they have the death trip, Gus, we've talked about. Colorado away, Utah away in 48 hours. So if they could have beaten Colorado, which they should have, 6-2, Oregon State 7-2, split the death trip 8-3, they'd be looking pretty good. Stanford home, Cal home, at Arizona State, big clash. And then they have this run, and I'll call this the death run. If you have death trip, death run. They have later in the year, February 19th to the 26th, at Arizona, home UCLA, home USC. That's the thing there. And I'm rooting for them. They're easy to root for. They're a fun team. They have talent. Can't make their free throws, Gus. 66.4% this year, but doing really solid stuff. Altman always makes them good. I want to see them in the tournament. I think they will get there, but you got to go to Colorado and win. You got to smack them around because you can't lose 2 to the Buffaloes here and expect to come away with a solid season. So I like Oregon. I appreciate the sports marketing teacher, Gus, listening to us. We give you a shout out. Let us know. Talk to us. Send us a tweet on Twitter at SDS Podcast. We'll send you a T-shirt. Thank you so much for listening. But I wanted to start off with that.
And how about this? We'll finish up Oregon here. How about the Ducks in the first 4? We okay with that?
Oh yeah, that'd be great. Oh my God, that's Gus. You know me.
That's attractive.
I have a bias to great coaches. So if they're in the first 4, I'm picking them. That is my bend. I'll admit, full disclosure, Gus, I put too much weight on great coaches. Dana Altman's a great coach. I love for them to sneak in and no one will pick them. Fantastic. I'll take them any day of the week.
Can I throw out one more thing,
sure,
Oregon-wise? Any chance that you could possibly see a similar scenario to UCLA last year when they were in the first 4?
The answer is yes. Remember, UCLA, I believe, at half, down 10 to Michigan State in the first 4. Right. Can we just keep that in mind?
Yeah.
If we went on live on YouTube, we got to get live on YouTube, by the way. We go live at YouTube, and we sit there at halftime of the first 4 game and go, guys, don't worry, UCLA is going to make the Final Four. I mean, like, would anybody? But we would be getting curses in the comments. LOLs is my favorite capital. LOLOL. Okay, that's what we get. So anything's possible. With Dana Altman, you'll be fine. But you got to make your free throws. You got to play some more defense. And you can't blow a 20-5 lead at home to anyone. Not if you're going to be a serious team after you started slow. I think you have to make that up. That's all.
Agreed. I'm back in on Oregon as well. And looking forward to staying up late and hearing Bill Walton wax poetically about the Conference of Champions.
I know. Everybody loves him. I'm in the minority. I can't. I actually hit mute the other. I can't. I mean, he's reading stuff. I can't. Gus, I want to do a new segment inspired by last week, okay?
Okay.
I want to call it Fotraka, okay? Favorites on the road that covered. I was thinking about favorites on
Fotraka?
Favorites on the road that did or did not cover, but that's too long. So our Fotraka. Okay, segment. Okay, terrible name. I know. Guys,
hashtag Fotraka?
Give us a better name here. Let us know. I want to go around because we talked about how hard it is. So I want to name some teams that had impressive wins on the road that covered within conference as a favorite, and some teams that did not. And just get top of your head reaction. We'll just go through them rapid fire here. First off, Belmont takes Eastern Illinois to the woodshed. I gave 24.5. I mean, Gus, how many teams can you lay 24.5 in a conference game and feel good? No problem. Belmont covered this easily, 25.5 over Eastern Illinois. I don't care if they played us, Gus. Belmont laying that is still really impressive.
They have reached the landscape within their conference, and obviously next year when they switch conferences, that will change and they'll have to redefine themselves. But they've reached the point inside their conference where they are Gonzaga-ish, where they can just put up giant numbers on anybody any night. And then when they run into a slightly physical and maybe talent-wise within the same swimming pool, that's where they run into trouble, i.e. Morehead State. So, yeah, I think that they've really placed themselves in this atmosphere within their landscape where they could drop 90 on you at a moment's notice within that conference, but then still run into problems with those physical teams that have not NBA-ish talent, but have professional basketball league talent.
Oh, you mean like Austin Peay, who I was getting 16 with tonight, and Belmont won by 8. So, but Eastern Illinois, 34, dropped 90 on them. Thank you very much. Next up, Gus, is Longwood good?
I can't tell, but go ahead and make your case.
Yeah, Longwood here in the Big South Conference, Gus, 6-0, 14-5. They've rattled off 7 consecutive wins. They are leading the Big South North at 6-0. 2.5 games clear of Campbell and North Carolina A&T, etc. Big wins by them on the road against Hampton. They win by 24. I mean, look, it's impressive. They played Old Dominion away, lost by 1 earlier. They played Georgetown. That's playing up. They lost by 8 to them. I know Georgetown's not great, but still beat American at home. UMBC, they beat at home by 27. Are they good? Is Longwood? They may be good. Griff Alden's doing a good job. Longwood.
Somebody out of that conference usually kind of separates themselves, and we've seen Hampton do that in the past before and grab that auto bid from that conference and then sneak into the 16-16 game. So, and Longwood could score a little bit. That's the thing that I'm liking with them. They can score a little bit, and they also have good defensive numbers within conference.
Excellent point, Gus. They don't turn the ball over. They're number 1 in conference in turnover rate. Absolutely can score. And folks, believe it or not, Longwood, 10th best team this year against the number at 11-4, right ahead, Gus, of the team you just watched, the UAB Blazers, at 13-5. So Longwood, folks, they like to put points. Give them a look. There are some advantages when you know where to look. Okay, there's a book I used to read to my kids. You would know it. You just have to know where to look. I don't know what that book is, but Eastern Washington, Gus, on the road covering 5. I don't like laying 5 points. I have found in my research that underdogs at home getting 5, 5.5, it's a number that just gives me pause. Sometimes it's narrative based, guys. Like in poker, you go by the numbers, but you also go by feel. 5.5 makes me nervous. Well, not with Eastern Washington going and playing Idaho State and beating them 89-63, Gus.
Ouch.
So just want to mention them, Eastern Washington here, a team that you may want to watch in the Big Sky. They're 11-8. They're 5-3. So they're going to get some good numbers here because only middle of the pack, but their losses have been to Montana and to Northern Colorado. No shame there.
No shame, yeah.
They've played some tough teams. They've played Nevada, Texas State, etc. So they're pretty battle tested. David Riley doing a fantastic job here, first year at Eastern Washington. Nice win on the road against Idaho State, who's horrific. I understand, Gus, 3-15, 1-8 in conference. But when a team covers by over 20 points when they're favored, I thought it's worth a mention, no?
I think it is worth a mention, and I think also we have to speak to the culture that is being built. I'll bring up another team later on in the podcast where a similar transformation is happening and success is following them as well. But yeah, I think once you can find that team within those conferences that but definitely are under the radar, then you kind of get attached to them. And then like any fan, that's the team you're going to follow. That's the box score you're going to check. That's the spread you're going to check. And Eastern Washington might be one of those teams to add to your list.
Really impressive one here. We have been Richmond fans. Jacob Gilliard came on the pod, all-time a steals leader, I believe, in the NCAA history. I think he passed it already.
Correct, yes.
For Richmond.
Done deal.
They were favored by 2.5 at Rhodey. I stayed away from this game because I could not figure it out. Shame on me. Gus, Richmond wins at Rhode Island, 70-63. They cover the number. A lot of things were against Richmond here, man. They are only 4-3 in conference.
Correct.
They have lost to St. Joe's. They lost away at St. Louis. They lost to Davidson. They have had some battles, but they have won 3 consecutive A-10 road games. At Fordham, not easy. LaSalle away, and Rhode Island covering in all 3 of those games prior to a matchup on Saturday, which you knew they may be looking ahead to. You don't want to go to war with the Rams. Richmond, 13-7. We want to see them in the tournament. They were robbed last year. Everyone comes back to get them to the tournament. 4-3 in conference. They're getting a little hot here. Nice win at Rhodey.
Absolutely nice win at Rhodey. And I think the other part that we can harken back to and reflect back upon is when we talked to the boys at 3-Bid League, they said that I don't know if I'm sold on this Richmond team, but I do think that they were still sold on 3 teams from their conference getting in. They mentioned how VCU would be one of those teams. They were still in on Davidson and did not give up on Davidson, even when they took those 2 losses early and then went on this miraculous run and got ranked this particular past week. And then, of course, you want to include a couple of other teams from the A-10 as well, but Richmond needs to be included in that conversation. We love the super seniors coming back, and they have an interesting recipe where they have a former starter coming off the bench and sacrificing minutes and points for the greater good of the team. And I think that's one of the things that Coach Mooney does a really good job with, is like selling the win over personal stats.
The next one could not prove my point any better. I picked it as soon as I saw it. I love Missouri State. You love Missouri State. We have talked about the greatness that is Isaiah Mosley. You talked about him. He's flammable. I compared him, probably not accurately, but you're too nice to say anything, to Jordan Crawford. But I saw Missouri State. They beat Southern Illinois. They beat Valpo. They beat Illinois State. Gasp. They won by 10 at Loyola Chicago. You know what I'm doing? I'm fading them on the road at Indiana State. Gus, the spread, 5.5. There it is. Indiana State comes in at home, rebounding, upsets Missouri State. It's hard to win on the road here. Isaiah Mosley drops 25, 12 rebounds, forgot his offensive rebound there. 3 of 5 from 3, did a great job. But Indiana State does what they do, which they get on the boards. 41 boards there they got. Did a great job, overcame 17 turnovers, shot 14 of 27 from three-point range. Indiana State, a team that came into this shooting 32.9% from three-point range, shooting well over 50%, Gus, against Missouri State.
Those go in.
That's what happens. It's hard to win on the road. Good team, Missouri State. We love them, but Indiana State gets the win here and covers outright. Wins the game outright, 76-72, covers 5.5.
And this goes back to one of our premises that we've talked about on the podcast a number of different times. Is just the cumulative effect of all efforts, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Where
I love this rule. Yes.
Yeah, where a team only has a certain number of efforts per season, and the great teams, the special teams, have a large number of those. The lesser teams have a smaller number of those, but they're all there, right? So once you burn one of those efforts, especially a number of those efforts in a row,
excellent.
Guess what? You're going to come up short. Like, your team can't keep that level of focus, intensity game after game. There needs to be a dip somewhere for you to have a healthy season. And sometimes those dips show up like with the spread. And you're nailing it right here. And you can take a look at Auburn after their huge effort. Take a look at Kentucky after their giant matchup. They go into overtime. Auburn, squeaks one out against Missouri. You can look at Davidson after their streak. They get ranked. It's a number of efforts. So you almost have to pay attention, just like you said, Mike, to if a team does get really hot, like, are they going to sustain that, or are they going to sustain it at the level they had been operating at? And it just makes sense if you just pay attention to sports.
That was great. I add nothing to greatness. Perfectly well said. You've said it before, and I love it. Absolutely. Next line, Gus, are people even paying attention? I have tells you now, we've said the lines have gotten sharper, but
Correct.
There's been some bizarre ones. You're killing it on a Rave app, by the way, with the Providence game, so I'll let you handle that one a little bit. But another line that I saw that made no sense, Missouri hosting Auburn. I know Auburn is great. They beat Kentucky. Gus, they're on a 15-game winning streak. But, Gus, it's hard to win on the road. I mean, if Auburn won this game by 10, would you be shocked? I mean, who's making this line? Missouri already has showed us that they beat Alabama at home this year, dropping 92 points. So I'm going to take the 12.5 points, no problem. Thank you very much. Auburn wins by 1 point, 55-54, low-scoring game, but 12.5, Gus. Come on. In the SEC, it's a lot of points. Missouri covers.
I think that's way too many points. Once you get into double digits on the road in one of those big conferences, you have to kind of pay attention to it. And this goes back to another thing that we've talked about on the podcast before as well. When that team achieves that status that they have not sat at before or in a long extended period amount of time, sometimes that next game or those next couple of games get a little slippery.
Yes.
Take a look at Purdue at Rutgers.
Yes.
Exact same thing happened.
Good call. Great comparison.
Take a look at when Nevada a few years ago jumped into the rankings for the first time.
Yeah.
I know the Mountain West is is rough on the road and there's a challenge everywhere. But each time they snuck in that season, immediately they took a loss. So sometimes when you're a team that gets to that status that you have not sat at before, you look around and be like, whoa, this is what it looks like here? Uh-oh, we're only going to win by 1 in Missouri. That happens all the time.
Just want to shout out Texas here to keep the Texas fans in our good graces. We blasted Texas, had some questions about them, the whole thing. But
Sure.
I got to give them credit here. 73-50 at TCU. We just said how hard it is to win on the road.
Yes.
They've now beaten Oklahoma State and TCU after losing away at Iowa State and home to Kansas State. Bad loss. But they're battling here 15-5, 5-3. Maybe if Chris Beard can get things going with Marcus Carr, they can make a run here late. But they got some tough games coming up. They got the Big 12 SEC Challenge this weekend. They got Tennessee at home. That's going to be a fun game. Right now, Ken Pom has it at 3. That's very frisky to me. Texas Tech, Iowa State, Kansas home. Listen, Big 12 is just brutal. But listen, I don't want to – if I'm going to rip them, I want to be fair. Nice win by 23 at TCU. Win's a win.
Texas is just falling prey to their preseason ranking bias. Like, everybody had them within the top 5. They're not playing that up to that level currently. Are they maybe one of the top 30 teams in the nation? Absolutely. And they're playing just like that, but just not a top 5 team in the nation.
Yeah, when you see these big teams that have gone on runs, Gus, all I say to myself, it goes back to we had John Gassaway, you always have him on the pod, and he always writes that article, when is the last undefeated team going to lose? Usually in December, right? And I just say to myself, you're not going to play great every game. The last team we saw do that was Kentucky with that incredible team, made it to the Final Four, played a generational Wisconsin team, and lost a very close game. So this next one was idiotic to me, just idiotic. Arizona, they've won a bunch of games in the row. They're playing UCLA. UCLA's brought everybody back. They have Cody Riley back, made the Final Four last year at home. Why is Arizona favored? Arizona's great. I understand that, but this is a great spot. It was 3 when it opened. I grabbed it then. It got down to 2.5. UCLA wins by 16, 75-50.
I was going to say, you're still probably okay with that. I really liked Arizona going into this game, but I had my metric, beautiful basketball blinders on. So, yeah, I fell prey to it. You were the smarter man taking UCLA at home in that game for sure. No doubt.
No, there's another one coming up that I fell prey to. Don't worry about it. I got another one. Same type of team. Davidson. Jeez. VCU. Okay. Anyway. Creighton -2.5 against Butler. I thought it was laughable. Creighton is a young team. John Nyatawa I talked to this year. Creighton has had some good wins. As I told you early in the year, Gus, I've struggled to handicap Creighton. I've probably lost a significant amount of money on Creighton. But
you may or may not have.
Yeah, I've struggled with Creighton. But I've gotten into a bit of a groove here. Beat St. John's, beat DePaul at home. They're still a very young team. Their total experience this year, 1.32 years average. That's 311th in the nation. Yeah. So they're going to have some odd road spots. They got blitzed on the road by Villanova at Villanova by 34. They lost to Xavier, not looking good, on the road now by 7. And they play Butler, which is always tough to play, Gus. Lose 72-55, lost by 17.
And we always say it. Once we start conference play, you're always going to run into these exact games where, your eyes tell you that Creighton might be a little bit more talented. The metrics might say they might be a little bit more valued team. You look at the roster, they might be a little bit longer, a little bit taller, whatever the case might be. But once you get into conference, guess what? You have to go into Hinkle. And if you're going there, guess what? The chances of you winning at any of these home venues within conference with every team well scouted, the Butler result didn't surprise me either.
Gus, Saturday looks like Creighton hosting Xavier. Xavier favored by 1. Do you have any thoughts on that game? I
think this little segment is telling us where we should look, right?
Right, just saying. Okay.
Right.
Another team, Bradley, the rebounding machine that is Bradley, wins at Valpo. Gus covers 2.5 as the road favorite in conference, 71-56. Bradley, a team that fights, that is hard to handicap. You can't overlook them. When you look in the Missouri Valley, you're looking at other teams probably ahead of Bradley, Drake, Loyola Chicago. But let's keep in mind, Bradley is frisky. They lost in overtime at Loyola Chicago. They lost at home to the aforementioned Missouri State by 2. They've now beat Drake away by 8. That's a solid win. Southern Illinois at home by 8. Valpo. Now they host Indiana State before playing our good buddy AJ Green and Northern Iowa. Nice win for Bradley. Valpo on the road, not easy.
No, definitely not easy. And Valpo does have one of the high major transfers that transferred down with the Wisconsin transfer. And Bradley also, so they're no pushover at home. And Bradley is doing a great job of bringing in talented international players. Not dissimilar from what's happening at Arizona and a couple of other places. Like we can always refer to St. Mary's with their a connection with Australia. Bradley has kind of tapped into that a little bit too, and I think it's reaping dividends.
We are connected here to Kermit Davis at Ole Miss. Really has been struck by the injury bug, which is really unfair to him. He's in a world of hurt right now, unfortunately. Lost Samford at home, Tennessee in overtime, beat Mississippi State, nice bounce back, but since then lost at Texas A&M, lost at home to Auburn, no shame. Missouri at home, blitzed by 25, Mississippi State away. They beat Florida at home, thank you, Mike White, and then they lose at home to Arkansas, but really suffering, Gus, without senior Jarkel Jr., who is out for 6 weeks. With a back. He had a procedure in his back injury, but they are really struggling. And it's a shame, too. This is a really good team, defensively especially. Just the metrics have dropped off the chart here in SEC play. 10-10, 2-6 in conference. Bad loss there to Arkansas. Really not competitive most of the game.
Kermit relies on his guys staying and playing with older players in a league where you're going to have your Jabari Smith and your freshman at Kentucky and your other talented players that go to other big SEC schools. So Kermit relies on those guys hanging around and being 3- and 4-year players, experienced, tough, not going to get pushed around, have seen everything before. But when you have injuries with that type of roster and then you're looking at lesser talent, it always is an equation for a struggling season. Yeah.
You were in my head about Navy at Bucknell, talking about how much Bucknell is suffering. Bucknell lost by 18 at Navy. I just didn't like the 7.5. It was a little high for me. Well, in the end, shouldn't have worried about it. Navy easily covers at Bucknell, 81-63, another 18-point win. So not only did they win by 18 at home, on the road, they won at home. Rather, they won by 18 on the road, something that North Carolina could not do to Boston College the other night. We can get into that a little bit later. Lost that bet, but Navy doing a nice job there in the Patriot League. Impressive road wins. Navy now 13-7, 6-3. They had the self-destruction to Army. I mean, just a historic destruction.
Correct.
Our buddy Rich DeMarco called that game. We got to get him on the pod. And he said it was one of the best things he's ever called in his life. A big comeback from Army. I think they were down 40-18, something crazy like that. But Navy under Ed DeChellis doing a nice job there in the Patriot League. They are second behind, of course, Colgate.
That Army-Navy game I was going to mention a little bit later, but we'll just get to it right now and just say, like, that was one of the most improbable games that you're going to see in any conference, especially within the Patriot. And we just like to say thank you for your service.
Yes.
And thank you for providing us with an unbelievable basketball experience in your most recent matchup. And Army-Navy, it's not just football.
Great people. So, yep. Great people producing a great game. Not surprised. The next one, Bonnie's favored by 2.5 at George Mason. Nope. Not going to happen.
I feel like George Mason's season and Oregon's season kind of mirror each other.
Good one, Gus. Very good.
Got off to the great start. Everybody's like, "Oh, Kim English is a genius," which he is. He's an unbelievable coach and is may not end up at George Mason forever. But at the same point, then they hit the skids a bit.
Yes.
And now, now we got some shine back on them and everybody's back on George Mason. So I feel like Oregon, George Mason, they've been on the same roller coaster ride this entire season.
It's such a great comparison. Well done. Yeah, they open against Stony Brook, Penn, Morgan State, Maryland. The Maryland game was big. Had enjoyed that financially as well. Then the loss away at James Madison, better than anybody. It's a rivalry game. Fine, no problem.
Correct. Yes, I hope they keep that game moving forward. That's a great rivalry.
Right, yes. Great rivalry game. So you don't put too much stock in that. Then Washington on a neutral raises your eyebrow. Nevada losing, not raising your eyebrow, losing by 19, raising your eyebrow. South Dakota State semi-way, okay, always tough. And then Old Dominion, you're like, okay, enough. I mean, like I can rationalize every game, but you've lost 5 in a row, Kim. But then all of a sudden, bang, Navy, Georgia, nice win there on the road. American, Kansas is Kansas, whatever, George Washington. But now they have won George Mason, Dayton, St. Joe's, and St. Bonnie's. 3 games in a row. But they are home games, Gus, which makes me think on Sunday they go to UMass.
A little fishy there. That might be another one to look at.
Threes, you know what I mean? Rich Kelly, part on the right. I know. Okay, I'm just saying. It's a little frisky for me. Kim English on the road. Last time on the road they lost to George Washington. Okay, just something to think about.
I agree. It's great to look at the entire picture, not just focus on what's happened lately.
Yeah.
Agreed.
SMU, this annoys me. South Florida stinks. I've watched them several times, and I try to get into it because I do like their coach. I feel that he's a hardworking guy, Brian Gregory, but they stink, Gus. They absolutely
They
stink. They are the worst team. Okay, South Florida, the worst team in Division I college basketball in three-point shooting. The worst. They are shooting 25.1% from beyond the arc. Here comes SMU, Jankovic, okay, fighting for his job here. Beat Memphis. Okay, big win there on the road. I thought maybe a little bit of a letdown. No chance. 74-54 was never close. South Florida stinks, Gus.
Can I make an argument that I am pretty confident I could go out in a pickup game and shoot well over 25% from three? Is that fair?
I think you do it blindfold. 25. It's 25%. I mean, and this is the AAC. This isn't Big 12. I mean, it's okay, but I mean, you're playing Tulsa zone. Can't get some open shots. Tulane at home. You can't get 25%. The worst team, folks. There's your trivia question. Worst team college basketball. They are rough. I don't know if Brian Gregory's going to survive this, but just a brutal run for here. They are 6-12, 1-5 in conference. They're only win at home to UCLA. Figure that one out. I guess rivalry game, whatever.
I guess so. That's another one that makes no sense there too. All right, where are we going next, Mike?
A friend of the pod, John Becker in Vermont. Folks, just want to let you know, Vermont is back. Okay, so if anybody out there thought like Vermont was off to a slow start or something,
can I offer one? And so I don't think they ever left.
Yeah, they just maybe people or maybe me, Gus, was wondering because they didn't cover a couple games there. Well, Gus, Vermont now 10-7 against the number, and they have covered. Stay with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of 8. Only game they didn't cover was Hartford. They won by 10. They're favored by 15.5 at home. But Vermont takes Stony Brook to the woodshed at Stony Brook, 80-67. Don't look now, Gus. Catamounts 14-4, 6-0, and they are at the top, 2 games clear in the America East Conference.
And since we've been paying attention to Vermont and had Coach Becker on the podcast, we've always paid attention to that Stony Brook game. And if you're gonna stomp on them at their place with that amount of with that victory, oh man! And I'll tell you what, Ryan Davis, awesome. He's gonna be Player of the Year in the conference, playing unbelievably well. He's a different player than the stars they've had in the past. But he is just perfect for their system. Big, that can stretch the floor, defend at the rim a tiny bit, and can handle the ball a bit.
Catamounts, first in the conference in offensive efficiency. First in the conference, effective field goal percentage. First in the conference, three-point shooting. Gus, without looking, what do you think Vermont's shooting from three-point range in conference?
Well, if we were going to just do this exercise, you would think anything above 36% would be excellent. Are they at 37.7%?
It starts with a 4.
Are you kidding me?
And it almost starts with a 5. Gus, they're shooting 49% from three-point range in conference in America East play. 62% from inside the arc. And
I did not know that. That's amazing.
And Gus, hang on. They're hosting Maine on Saturday. You want to say sleepy spot? Okay, fine. But it's going to –
No, not with Maine.
It's going to open at 26. I'm going to give that right away and try to grab it as soon as it comes out.
That might be a very similar situation to what we led off with Belmont. 2
other ones for you, buddy. Ellen, this was easy. I grabbed it right away. Wrote it up here for Sportsbook Review. Illinois State getting 4 at home to Drake. Folks, Drake is not last year. Drake is wonderful, great coach. DeFries does a great job.
Hemphill's an absolute highlight. Yeah.
Right. They're not the same team. So the hangover is still there with the bets. I mean, they should not be laying 4 on the road against Illinois State. Roman Penn, gritty, gutty, love him. He's not healthy, Gus. They're up 1 with about 30 seconds left. Throws up an absolute brick. Gus, he shot it from the wing. It hit the other side of the backboard over the rim. I mean, just a shot that is bizarre from an elite player. He's hurt, missed everything. Illinois State can't score at the buzzer, so they lose by 1. Thank you very much for the 4-point win. It's just another one of these games where you look at it, it's on the road, that is going to be a tough place to play. This one was an OT. It's Drake's second consecutive OT game. They won an OT against Northern Iowa. They won an OT against Illinois State. Very, very gamey. Now they're hosting Loyola Chicago at home on Sunday. That is frisky. They're doing a solid job. Don't get me wrong, but I'm going to fade them in that spot, laying points to Illinois State, who always plays them tough, and Illinois State covers.
Salukis. And then I think the last thing to pay attention to Drake is, you were leading the charge here, I think, before anybody else got on this particular bandwagon last season. You paid attention to it, and I think you rode them to what, like 16 17 wins?
A lot of alcohol, too. I put it on Twitter with every time they won. The alcohol you gave me. The bourbon you gave me, actually.
I was going to say, was that the nice bourbon?
Every time. It's amazing.
And then what? We got one more?
Yeah, last one. I love this one as well. I wrote it up here. I went on the Sports Monument every Tuesday or Wednesday I'm on, and sure enough, Georgia Tech getting 5 at home. LOL. Here's my LOL for the day. Florida State, Gus. Florida State comes off the big win over Duke. They hang a big number on North Florida. They beat Miami, all fired up. Now they're going to road Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech stinks. They're 1-6 in conference. Pastor, the visor, the whole thing. Fantastic. Give me 5. No problem here. Georgia Tech wins outright.
The visor. That thing is amazing.
He's a great guy. I love the guy.
He's definitely entertaining and unbelievably positive. The ACC is really tough to dissect this year and hard to figure out where you're going to make your money and find those upsets. And DeVoe is the best player on the floor currently. In the future, will Cleveland be better? Yes, sure, but FSU is relying on a ton of freshmen, and when you're on the road in that conference, you just never know. And everybody is so desperate for that signature win. Maybe this is one of those signature wins for Georgia Tech. So, yeah, I get this one as well.
Around the horn, want to get your thoughts on a couple teams. Gus, people can keep doubting Providence. Providence is good. They're winning these games without A.J. Reeves. They have Nate Watson in the middle. Big, does nice things on both sides. Not a great rebounder, not where he should be. Justin Minaya has done a fantastic job. Steals, blocks. He's the glue guy for them. And Jared Bynum is so underrated. You watch a Providence game. All I've done this year is this. Nice 3 by Bynum. That's a great steal by Bynum. What a pass by Bynum. I'm like, geez, Bynum. Bynum's tremendous. Providence, I think they're for real. I want people to stop doubting them. I will point out, though, Gus, I was talking to the Miss Randall about this tonight. They lost by 32 at Marquette. Remember that game?
They sure did.
Blown out. No Reeves then, no Reeves now. No problem. Games moved to Sunday at the Dunk. Okay, the payback game. What do you think the line is?
I think after the near buzzer beater by Bynum over Xavier on the road, I think that they might be riding high. But here's what I'm going to tell you, and this is the thing that you have to pay attention with Providence. Their metrics are not something that you're going to be like, wow, correct. That I didn't think so.
Correct.
I didn't think about that. But if you look at their win-loss record, that's the final thing that we're going to pay attention to. They win these games. They might not win them in a metric-friendly way. So I'm going to say that those are still affecting their line and their betting action.
Yep, it is Providence favored by 2 over a team that just beat them by 32. It's a stay away from me. I don't want any part of it. I just want to enjoy it.
Correct.
I get it that they think it's a big Providence bounce back, but I don't know about that. I mean, maybe even. I get it. I think it's a very frisky game. Regardless, great job by Providence. Gus, LSU, strong-ass offer is having strong-ass losses, okay? LSU flying high with a great defense this year, rolling, then bang, home Arkansas, bang, away Alabama, bang, away Tennessee, bounce back against Texas A&M, but did not cover. What do you think here of LSU? 16-4, 4-4 in conference. But people were talking about them as a top 10 team. Their defense superior, number 1 in the country in adjusted defensive efficiency, but still, you buying them?
Not without Pinson.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the reason of the slide lately. And plus, Darius Day is also not playing healthy. You mentioned how Roman Penn is playing a little banged up. He hasn't been healthy in a couple of games either. So when 2 of your 3 best players are either out or playing compromised, guess what? Losses inside the SEC are going to happen. So once Pinson gets straight and gets back healthy fully, which isn't going to be the first game back, by the way. That's never the way these things work. Then they'll be okay again. But these losses are going to affect their resume, and then they're going to end up as an 8-9 game or maybe a 7 seed that's going to give a 2 seed an issue in March. So I think it's interesting from that perspective. And Tara Eason is just completely awesome. Yes. I absolutely love what he does on the floor. And the way that he plays and the effort that he plays with and the results that he gets, his skill set is unbelievably unique, matched with his effort. So he's kind of keeping LSU afloat while they try to solve these health issues. I'm
a number. I love the metrics, and I dive into it when I find something I want to bring it up in the pod. Wisconsin is winning, Gus, in a bizarre fashion. Defensively, for their defense, they're not great. They are 10th in the Big Ten in 3-point percentage allowed, 10th in the Big Ten in 2-point percentage allowed. Rebounds aren't great, and they're playing at the third fastest tempo in the Big Ten. Yet 16-3, 7-2 in conference. What do you make of the Wisconsin Badgers doing a bizarro change to their style?
I think it speaks to Greg Garr noticing and playing to his strengths. He has greatness on his team in Johnny Davis. And in order to get Johnny Davis into successful positions on the floor, they have to play at a little higher tempo. They want the ball in his hands as many times as he can get it in an offensive possession. So why wouldn't you play up tempo to give him more touches? That makes sense. But in order to do that, you are leaving your defensive principles back in the back seat. Though once you decide we're going to go all in on Johnny Davis and we're going to try to beat you that way, then that defensive efficiency number and that pace number goes out the window. I think it's really interesting and really gives Greg Garr a little feather to put in his cap that he was able to adjust to this and not just win it with Wisconsin guys. Because I think we can safely say, like, Johnny Davis is not your typical Wisconsin guy. Like, he's going to be an NBA first-round pick, and those guys usually don't show up at Wisconsin. I don't know, unless you're, Tucker from a bunch of years ago. Is that it?
Oh, wow. Well done. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay.
I want to publicly apologize to Shaka Smart. Shaka has gotten back to his element. He's done an amazing job at Marquette. They had a rough run there. Home UCLA, no shame. Xavier away. Connecticut home, double overtime Creighton home. But since then, Providence by a zillion, Georgetown, DePaul, Seton Hall, Nova away by 3, Xavier and Seton Hall. We already said they're going to the dunk. I want to equate this, Gus, to my first date with my wife. It was snowing in November, and I didn't know her, just talked to her on the phone. It was a blind date. And, you're a single guy, you're lifting, okay, and I'm dropping weights on myself. I mean, whatever. I show up, we laughed at this, in a leather jacket with a short sleeve shirt in 20-degree weather. It's snowing. Miss what I'm wearing. And Gus, you know me, that's not me, okay? So the running joke is I was trying to be something that I wasn't, and luckily she saw through that. We watched JJ Redick, and now we're married. But I think Shaka needed to be who he is. And who he is a motivated guy from a young school, blue-collar, Marquette. Be who you are, Shaka, and you're killing it. 15-6, 7-3, see you in the dunk on Sunday.
That's a great comparison.
Thank you.
Shaka Smart at Texas was wearing a leather jacket with a T-shirt in the snow. That's exactly what he was.
Right.
I hope people are enjoying the podcast.
I think we're going to name the podcast Shaka Smart Leather Jacket. People have no idea what he's talking about. Gus, you could talk about this one. Colorado State, I'm just going to say it's sex.
They're very attractive offensively.
That's all it is. That's just...
Are we okay with David Roddy being like, you could use that dunk as the icon for college basketball, like Jerry West is the icon for the NBA.
Perfect. Very good.
That poster of that dunk, I mean, kudos to the photographers that captured that out in Colorado State. That dunk, you were just like, wait, whoa, ho. And him midair, cocking it back. That thing is beautiful. And by the way, it's okay, people. It's okay. We're giving you permission. You can put David Roddy on an All-America team right now.
Oh, I'd love to see him get 13.
It's okay.
Oh, I love it.
I know. It's Colorado State next to his name, All-America. No, go ahead and do it. We don't need the second scorer from a big conference. We don't need that guy in All-America. David Roddy's playing like one of the best players in America. Recognize.
To show you how good he's playing, I got a text from our friend Paul, the Seton Hall fan.
Sure.
God bless him. He goes, I did a 3-team parlay tonight, tailed you on Colorado State laying points at home to Nevada. Are they legit? And I write back to him about a half hour before the game. Yes, they're legit, but they're going to be without Thistlewood and Tanjay tonight. I don't know if they're going to cover that number. Sure enough, they find a way to cover the number. I don't know if our friend Paul won the parlay, but Colorado State, Gus, 16-1 overall, 6-1 in the Mountain West, had a COVID pause for 24 days, December 12th, January 4th. Only loss was a last-minute rescheduled game 2 days after they returned from the COVID pause. They have to go to San Diego State. Just absurd. And they lost that game. It was they just said, we need a game because Boise State can't play, so let's just give you at San Diego State. Okay, right. Thanks, guys. And then they beat Nevada. So no Thistlewood and Tanjay in that game. And I get to, Gus, use my favorite Twitter gif, the two Rams slamming their head together.
That's a great gif. I love that one. And by the way, can we just call out the Mountain West? Worst schedulers of basketball games ever.
Yep.
I mean, they had this issue last year where they were trying to squeeze in games and it compromised their own conference.
Yep, very true.
I don't know what they're trying to prove out there, but I think they might need to rethink how they're doing things.
Yep. Gus, your turn, brother. You got a couple here for me?
Okay, yeah, sure. How about Miami? Shouldn't we be worried, but in the best way ever? Wong, McGusty, and the well-traveled Charlie Moore, that three-guard attack seems to be working really well for Coach Larrañaga, and I am kind of a little bit in on them. I'm in on them to hang around for the second or third spot in conference, and I'm also in on them to do a little damage in March. And I think I'm in on them with Larrañaga, having this be one of his last great teams that he's going to coach.
Yeah, the thing is, because the ACC is down, quote unquote, people don't think Miami's good. Folks, both things are true. The ACC is down, and Miami is good. Both things can be true. 15-5, 7-2 in conference. Georgia Tech away on Saturday. Could be another 5.5, and then they get a little bit of a run here. ND, Virginia, down screen, back screen. Georgia Tech again. Wake Forest away. Get your popcorn ready for that. So they got a run here because they got Duke in the rearview mirror. They got North Carolina in the rearview mirror. Louisville, Chris Mack. I mean, they got them coming up. So I think Miami's good, Gus. I think the ACC is down and Miami is good. That's all.
That is the perfect way to end that little part there. Yes, I agree with both of those things very strongly. And then let's throw it out west a little bit. How about Seattle, Mike? I mean, I think I've never even really thought about talking about them on this podcast ever. And who knew? They're 16-4. They're undefeated inside the WAC. Now, the Red Hawks' next three games are going to show just how sustainable this early-ish success is.
Yes.
I mean, they have New Mexico State, always good. Grand Canyon with their new coach, always tough. And Sam Houston is 4-1 in conference. So the top three teams in conference are the Red Hawks' next three opponents. So we're going to find out a couple things here. They shoot it over 36% from three as a team. And lead guard Darian Trammell offers a very crowded box score each evening. He does a lot of great things for them offensively and defensively, is one of the leaders in the nation in steals. Seattle, let's maybe pay attention to them a little bit out in the WAC. And that's one of the teams that we talked about of getting that culture correct and really putting a defining change within your culture and having it result in massive wins and a great season, one of the best seasons they've had in recent memory.
Chris Victor, superior job in his first year in Seattle with the Red Hawks.
Yes.
This is what you need to know. They're fun to watch. They have the fastest tempo in the WAC, number one. They do not turn the ball over. They're going to sink back on defense, not great in the offensive boards, but 81% from the free throw line. So what we're talking about here is a Seattle team that's young, that doesn't have a ton of experience, but they're well coached. They're undefeated in the WAC. And Gus said it. Let's see them go to Grand Canyon. Let's see how that ends up. Great call.
Yeah, I think that game would normally for Grand Canyon just be like a look-ahead game. Now it's legitimately one of the biggest games of the season, and that's an unbelievable change in culture for Seattle. So that's fantastic for the WAC on the whole. All right, Mike, let's take a look at the weekend forecast. Up here in the Northeast, it looks like some snow somewhere, someday. We'll see. Friday evening, Ivy is back. Just pleased that we have a Ivy offering on Friday evening. And then Akron visits Red Hot Toledo on Friday as well. Don't say we didn't warn you about Ryan Reynolds. Stud, averaging 20 points a game, big lead guard, 6'4"-ish, good shooting numbers. Keep your eye on him. He definitely is a candidate for that Max Asmus role where hey, who's the next mid-major guard that's going to put up big numbers? Bingo bango, we have a candidate for you right there in Toledo. Mike, I feel like Houston might want to be careful visiting UCF this weekend. maybe some of those injuries finally catch up with them on the road in conference, just like we were talking about. And then you got some quick thoughts on two of the biggest programs in the nation, Kansas, Kentucky this weekend?
Yes, I'll get to that in a minute. I have to say this. You hit it perfectly, so I will pass to you on that one. Luke Neer, our friend Luke Neer, just tweeted us.
What up, Luke?
Gus, halftime score between San Fran and St. Mary's. San Fran 41, St. Mary's 24, up 17. Gus, St. Mary's drops 48 in the second half at San Francisco, comes back to win, beats San Francisco 72-70. Luke wrote, guys, this is some Gene Hackman stuff here going on with Randy Bennett. How did he do it? Gus, we have to watch this. They were only 3 of 9 from three-point range. I can't. I'm trying to look at the box score to see how they did it. I don't even know. I mean, I think they're just put on a clinic. They were 13 of 14 from the free throw line, so that is certainly great. But the big man inside, Matthias Tass, had 27 points. But in a game here where Tommy Kuzi just has 12, they beat San Francisco and overcome a 17-point halftime deficit. Boye, 19, Shabazz 10. Wow, what a comeback here for the Gales.
Let's give a couple props to Luke. He does a great job with the ACC Degenerates podcast, and of course on his radio show, The Best Seat in the House down in Virginia. When we chatted earlier in the season, he was actually on the St. Mary's team. He thought the St. Mary's team was legit and could do some damage. I wasn't sold. I think, Luke, you're right. Kudos to you, man. You were right with that call, no doubt.
Quick thoughts here. Kentucky, Kansas. Bill Self not covering lately. Our friend John, who listens, just says, "Does Kansas ever cover when you pick them?" I just want to know that. They're home to Kentucky. They're going to be favored by 3. It's a tough one, man. I'm going to lean Kentucky. It is really tough, but Self 17-2, 6-1 in conference. Only loss has been Texas Tech. They got him back on Monday. Really tough call for me. I think Sheboy could be the difference inside. I will grab the 3. I don't want to bet against Self. I just think it's going to be a wonderful game to watch. A lot of great games. It's going to be a lot of snow here in the East Coast, so get your popcorn, your hot chocolate ready. Give me a little Kentucky, Kansas. Oh.
I think after shoveling, I think that sounds like a perfect way to recover from any sort of ache we might have in the back or the arms. And I'll go the complete other way on there, Mike. I really like this Kansas team. Yeah, I think Kentucky might be still feeling out some of those injuries, whether it be with Wheeler or Ty at the guard position. So that could really hurt them there. And this has 2 of the best offensive rebounders in the country, stop, end of sentence, and McCormick and Sheboy. So you want to see who creates more opportunities for their teams on the offensive boards with McCormick and Sheboy. If I was going to lean one way, I think Sheboy might get the better of that matchup there. But, yeah, I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to say Kansas, and I love Kansas because of the wings. I'm a wing fan. Abaji is playing out of his head. He's playing legitimately like the best player in the country. And, Brown is doing the same thing on the wing. He's playing he's like the most underrated Robin of all time.
Yeah, Abaji needs to be more selfish. He can take over a game. We just saw that. They need him, I think. I think they want him to take the shot. Like Jimmy Chipwood, tie it all here, the Hoosiers with Luke Neer. They want him to shoot. They expect him to shoot. They're fine with it. They don't think he's hot. He needs to take it more because he makes some. That 3 he made, big time shot against
that. You're watching an NBA player.
Yes,
like
absolutely, 100%.
Yes. Mike, where else are people going to find and locate your leans, your ideas, and things going on in your basketball mind, whether it be NBA or college?
Fun stuff coming up here, guys, for Fantasy Pros. I'm doing 4-for-4 work, a lot of 4-for-4 work as well. Action Network still, of course, but I'm going to be hosting a live on the Betting Pros channel on Tuesdays and Fridays, a live NBA preview show, about 20 minutes. I'll be live on Twitter around 5 o'clock, 5:30. We'll get that out for you. And then when March Madness comes, I'm going to have a series of live videos coming out there in the Betting Pros channel. Great guys over Fantasy Pros. Appreciate the opportunity. So we got that going on. 4-for-4, great stuff. Got 2 for 2 on my props tonight. Thank you, Matisse Thibault, for the over 2.5 steals and blocks. You know, a big fan of that, Gus. And thank you, George Niang, for coming in for Tobias Harris, who was a little under the weather tonight and getting over 11.5 combined points, rebounds, and assists. So we'll have some fun stuff coming out. Looking forward to that. But of course, Gus, we'll have Screen to Screener heavy during that entire month as well.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. We'll try to get some nice guests that are going to be intelligent, thoughtful, and unique as we lead into February and lead to our favorite time of the year in March. And thank you so much for joining and letting us be part of your college basketball lineup and informational dialogue. So thank you so much for tuning into us and giving us a shot and letting us keep you company on a commute here or there, or maybe with some chores, or maybe this weekend with some shoveling. Who knows? If you like what you're listening to, please, kindness is cool. Give the podcast a follow at SDS Podcast. Efficiency of keystrokes, of course. Give Mike a follow over at Randall Rant. If you like what you're listening to, don't be afraid to leave a kind, nice review on your podcast vehicle, podcast consumption vehicle of choice. Kindness is always cool. And thank you. Cheers, cilantro, gratulatia.
Appetite. We took a seat in the vans, and the cozy in the candlelight.